Welcome to another episode of the Investor Guys podcast. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we got through it, as we always do. And Bill's over there chuckling because he's happy he finally has a video feed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna warn you, though, with all of your technical difficulties, we're going to go a little long today. Okay, I want to continue we were doing inspections, what to inspect and what to look for when you are buying a new property. And I want to continue on that theme because there's a lot more things to cover. We already did the roof. We already did the foundation. There's a lot more to cover. Yep. But before we get into that, we were talking about the other day. This is our 53rd episode that we're doing right now. So congratulations on 53. We could have probably done it three episodes again.
Congrats to you as well.
53 episodes. I did the math according to what I have saved. Also,
thanks for all you guys for being with us.
Thanks for watching us, especially in the future. I want to do business of investing because if you don't set your investing endeavors up as a business, you are doing yourself a disservice. It's not to say you cannot be successful. I know a lot of people do it as a hobby. A lot of people do it as a sideline, what they consider as a sideline, and they do it successfully, but they are losing out on a lot, and they could probably do so much better if they set it up as a business. So the business of investing, want to do ethics. Ethics are very, very important. I belong to a lot of different message boards for landlords and property owners and everything else. And I see people who are property owners who just want to treat their tenants like cattle. They're like, we rent the apartment to them, they pay for it, they don't pay for it, we evict them, we move on to the next. And we have other people who are like me. I do a move-in package when people come in, and we'll do a show on this too, but I actually do a move-in package. It costs me all of $50. It's a gift card for whatever local pizza restaurant there is. It's a package of a thing of water that we leave in the refrigerator. It's cleaning supplies, paper towels, and toilet paper. Things that everybody needs when they move in. It costs me $50. If you can't afford $50 to generate some goodwill to a new tenant, you're in the wrong business. So I want to talk about ethics, okay? Burgeoning markets, and this is important, and this may be the shows that we do after we do this particular show on moving and inspections. Right now, Texas and Florida, other markets too, Nevada and other states, but Texas and Florida are blowing up because of what is going on in New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, and not just coronavirus. We're talking about the political climate. We're talking about taxes. We're talking about everything that is going to get even worse moving into this next administration. Without getting political, I'm just talking bare numbers, okay?
So you know what's going to happen? A year and a half, 2 years from now, you and I are going to be talking about, well, we've moved to California where, taxes are under control, or we're in Vegas or something because
something fixed itself because it had to. So
we will be lost to the blue wave that is moving in, and sad. Although I was very happy to see that one of our Texas state legislators had brought up secession, and I'm like, yes, the Republic of Texas shall rise.
California will succeed, but now they need the money, so they're not going to. I don't know if you heard this in the news. Oracle is the latest of about 650 big businesses to leave California. Oracle moved their offices to Austin. So that's HP announced the same thing a few weeks ago.
I think we should just put a wall around Austin, and just it can be its own thing
with the light rail back to California, right?
Because it can just be its own thing.
Austin does belong in California, so.
The way people think in Austin and the way people think in Texas are very different, guys.
But it still shows a trend of people leaving certain states and going to other states. And the states that they're going to are burgeoning markets. And if you're an investor, whether or not you are in that state or not, you need to be looking at the opportunities in other states, because a number of things happen when you get this kind of a mass exodus from these states into these other states. You got property values that are going to go up. You've got rents that are going to go up. You've got vacancy factors that are going to go down. You've got so many different things that happen when the demand goes up for property. The sooner you get in on the front end of the curve, and we've been talking about this since we started doing this show at the beginning of the year, sooner you get in at the front of that curve, the better you're going to benefit. So we're going to do burgeoning markets for Texas and Florida, and we'll mention some other states while we're in there too. And then lastly, hedging our real estate investments. If you're an investor and you invest in stocks and bonds and other types of markets, you hedge your investments. You oftentimes, people who have been doing this for a long time, and Bill knows this because Bill came from that school. Okay. If you invest in stocks and you want to hedge your stocks, you'll also invest in bonds, because when stocks are up, bonds are typically down. And when bonds are up, stocks are typically down. We can do the same thing with real estate. There are investments that we can make that are going to pay out no matter what, such as Section 8. There's other investments that are going to pay out really high through certain types of markets. So when we are in a good market where people have expendable money, vacation properties is an excellent thing to get into. But we want to be able to hedge our investments. So if you had vacation properties, when we first went into this coronavirus, a lot of the states limited what vacation properties you could rent. Airbnb, along with a lot of the other companies, actually did restrictions on if you were going to do a private home, you couldn't. If you were going to go to a hotel or you're going to go to a resort, you were allowed to do that. Obviously, as investors, we're not probably going to be investing in a hotel or a resort starting out. It's probably going to be private residences. So that would have affected us. However, Section 8 was still paying out. Now, it's not to say that vacation homes aren't great. I'm looking at vacation homes like crazy myself lately. But hedging our investments so that we have a balanced income no matter what. Now, in perfect times, we'll get income coming in from all of them. But again, as the market changes, we need to balance it out. We need to hedge our investments. So that would be the other thing. We're actually coming up on 7 minutes. So that's why Bill's touching. I warned you ahead of time. We're going to go over on this show. So we're going to take a break and we'll come back and we will talk about our topic for the day, which is going to be other things to look for when you're doing inspections on your property.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich?, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich?, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
All right, and we are back, and as promised, we're going to talk about other things to look at when you're buying a property or when you're making an offer on a property. And we already covered the roof. We already covered the foundation. Let's kind of work our way down from the top, Bill. So when you go and look at a property, I go in the attic. Okay. Now I want to just right off the bat, I want to point out that finding a problem is not a reason not to make an offer on the building. Okay, or the property.
Absolutely.
This is not why we're doing the inspection, to find reasons why we don't want this property. We're doing the inspection because we want to know what we're getting into before we make this offer. Okay, we want to make a fair offer that's going to be accepted, but we want to know what it's going to cost us to bring this property up to the standards that we're going to need to either sell it or rent it or whatever it is we're going to do for what we call our exit strategy, even though that may not be exiting the property. So inspecting the property and understanding what the property needs is something every single person does, and it's or needs to do. And it's not because they're looking for reasons not to buy the property or things that are wrong with the property and move on to the next property. So I always start in the attic after I look at the roof from the outside. And tell me what you look for in the attic, and I'll tell you what I look for.
Well, the first thing I typically do in the attic is I'm looking at the underside of the roof. We talked about that on a previous show, looking at the decking, see if I see any water stains. Then I'm looking at insulation. I want to see how that looks. I'm also looking at, is there any flooring put into the attic to create additional storage space for the homeowner? I'm also looking to see for junction boxes. Are they installed properly? They have covers on them, those kind of things. I'm looking for light. Do I see natural light coming in anywhere in the attic? Now, if you've got a vent at the end, that's one thing. You'll get some light in there. But I'm looking for a place where light may be coming in where it shouldn't be coming in. So even though you've got a new roof, a lot of times you can still have, a little spot that was not done just right. And light's an easy way to do that. So it's usually pretty easy to pick those up in the attic. So those are the things that I'm typically looking for. And look, you're going to have some times when you buy property that people have left stuff in the attic. And you just go, oh my Lord, now I got to do all this. And you just do. And sometimes you'll be surprised that things that are left there. Those things, that's pretty much my attic run.
So the other things that I look at, and I look for ventilation for one thing, and I also want to say right now, your ventilation requirements in different parts of the country are going to be different. So in California, they will literally have open vents on either side or either end of the attic because it's dry air, and they want air moving through there. If you get to a damper climate, like say where Bill is in Texas or where I am in Florida, you want vents that are exhaust vents that are pulling air out because you don't want that humidity in the attic area or in any enclosed area for that matter. So ventilation systems are very important, but also understand what you're looking for in the market that you're in. I look for rodents. I look for insulation that's been chewed up. If I see insulation that's been chewed up, I know that I'm going to have to replace that because that means that there's a nest, and that means that there's going to be rodent droppings and everything else that are going to have to be dealt with. I also want to, if there's rodents, I also want to inspect any exposed wiring that is up there, especially anything that's near the insulation that has been chewed up and torn up, because a lot of times rodents like to chew on the soft rubber and casings of the wiring. So I will check that as well. I go up there. Don't do that unless you have a mask. Hantavirus is very real. Take a mask, take some gloves, pull it up, take a look at it. Be careful because there could be a rat or mice or anything else in there still.
Squirrel.
Worse, yes,
or
a raccoon. Yeah. So I check for rodents. Then moving down to the next floor, let's assume it's 2 floors or a single floor. It doesn't matter. We're all still looking at the same thing. Now, I went out to my truck this morning because I actually have been known to put my boots on. Actually, it's not even been known. I love putting my boots on and going onto the site. So I have a tester. I looked for it in the truck this morning with my daughter, but my toolbox is so crammed full of stuff in the back of the truck. I didn't want to throw it all on the garage floor and never pick it up until I needed to take the truck out again. There is a little tester. You can pick it up at Harbor Freight. You can pick it up at any hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's. Yeah. You can touch an outlet and it will beep and light up if you've got power to that outlet. Now, it doesn't tell you that you got 110 at that outlet, but it means that each of those outlets are hot. So when I'm walking through, I'll just touch the outlets, even the light fixtures, and make sure that they're all hot and there's no wiring issues. Later, when I've made an offer on the property, my home inspector will literally test each one of those outlets to make sure that they're getting 110 and that they're grounded. But that lets me know that they're hot, because a lot of times people will burn something out in the wall and they just won't fix it because they don't know or they don't care. Those are indications. If there's a light switch that's not working and it's not getting power, that's an indication that there's something that's going to need to be done. Doesn't mean I can't fix it, but I want to know that I can budget that for an electrician. And if it's just a light switch, it's not a big deal. But if it's a light switch and outlets in the entire room, then we're talking about something that's going to be a little more expensive. So I check the electrical. How about you?
Yeah, electrical is a good one. And, talking about things like the plugs and switches that don't work. I'm doing one of the rehab jobs I'm doing right now. Last week we were looking at, we had known this for a while, but we addressed it last week, which was the whole front side of the house was powerless. So we had the whole front wall of the property that was powerless. So we kept looking. We went to we're back to the panel, all the connections, everything looked to be really, really good. And so I told my guy, I said, pull the breaker out and let's look at the breaker. And so we pulled the breaker out. And the breaker wasn't tripped. That's the key thing I want you to know. We pulled the breaker out, and it had a crack in it. So we took a breaker out from another socket, popped it in. Everything worked fine. It was not a very expensive deal at all. Yeah. It cost us more looking for it than it did to fix it. But yeah. So take a look at what are those. So electrical is a good thing. Now, once I get into, and let's just go two-story because there's just a couple of different things that will happen two-story wise as opposed to a ranch. But I'm going right back. I've typically already assessed whether I've got a roof issue or not, but I'm always checking my ceilings. I want to make sure if I see any water spots on there. Now, if I know that I'm replacing my roof, I really don't care that I have any water damage on the ceiling because I know I'm going to repair that. But if I think my roof is in good shape, I'm really looking at the ceilings to make sure that I may not have missed something or to make sure I haven't missed anything on the roof. So I'm looking at the ceiling. We do a lot of properties that are in the 50s. Dallas-Fort Worth is a post-World War II city. It's been around forever, but all of our growth really exploded in the 50s. So most of the homes here, if they're not newer, from 50 to 70 is a massive part of the market. And then most everything here is pretty doggone new. But when I'm in those properties, I'm going to find out that I'm looking at the ceilings. They're typically, a lot of them are going to have popcorn on it. And some people just totally freak out with popcorn because they don't understand there's two types of popcorn. Popcorn done in the 30s and 40s is very different from popcorn done later on. And because that's asbestos popcorn, and most people associate all popcorn with asbestos, and that's not the case at all. Most popcorn, the overwhelming piece of popcorn, unless you're dealing in those houses that are 30s and 40s and older, you're going to find those are acoustic popcorn, which is just sheetrock mud. Now, understand all this stuff, whether it's lead-based paint, whether it's acoustic, whether you're dealing with asbestos or you think you're dealing with asbestos on popcorn. Think about what's been done to that house since the time it was built. The lead-based paint deal, so it's a disclosure you have to make. It's not a big deal at all. I don't have to remediate any of it. I have to disclose that it's there. Well, we're in 2020. Lead-based paint went out in the 70s. So it's possible, it's just not very likely you're going to find a house that hasn't been repainted in the last 50 years. Yeah. So again, all it is a disclosure. Hey,
we'll cover a little more on lead-based paint too, because that's actually something we run into when we do Section 8 as well. But we're running really long on this segment, so let's go ahead and again, I warned you and I warned Bill, this is going to go long. But that's fine because you know what? It's our podcast and we can do what we want. So
there you go. There you go.
We're back in a minute.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
Back with more. And one of the things I wanted to point out on lead-based paint, again, make the disclosure, but as long as you have paint over top of your lead-based paint and you do not have any cracking or peeling paint, it doesn't matter. I believe 1978 was the last year that they manufactured lead-based paint. So if you have a property, and I have most of my properties actually, because I buy so many older homes in Cleveland, I promise you, I guarantee you it has lead-based paint in it.
Yeah.
Now, my properties were built before popcorn ceilings. In fact, many of my properties were built before insulation. So that's one of the things that I add sometimes. But it's a disclosure and understanding that having lead-based paint is not that big of a deal. As long as you've got paint over top of it. If you've got tenants in it, just make sure you don't have cracking or peeling paint. Lead-based paint in and of itself is not a bad thing. It is only a bad thing if you're eating it. So don't eat it, and don't have a situation where a child could eat it, because kids put it in their mouth.
And that's why that thing exists, is somewhere at some point in time, some kid ate some lead-based paint. It probably did not go well. And so we have that disclosure. Again, it's not a big deal. Make sure that you are doing it. Always stay within the law. Always follow the local county rules for selling. They're fairly similar, but they're not the same, even from county to county. So make sure that you are doing everything by the book from a legal perspective. So I'm looking at my ceilings and figuring out what I want to do there. Am I going smooth? Am I going splat, drag, splatter, whatever you want to call it, knock down? It's all the same style. Or am I going
what's
smooth?
key is you're removing it. And I do the same, just because it's dated. So if you've got an acoustic ceiling or a popcorn ceiling, I take it down. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that expensive. You can do it yourself if you're handy, or you can pay somebody to do it. That's one of the things I don't like to do. It is messy, because you have to get it wet in order to get it to come down. So lots of prep, but it's not trendy anymore, and it catches a lot of dust and a lot of dirt. So.
And the only thing I ever look at, Kev, is, and this is with everything. This is something I always have going on in the back of my mind with every single repair that I'm doing. I'm always relating back to the retail price of the property that I'm going to sell it for. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a great example. And popcorn ceilings is a good example. If I'm selling a house and it's selling in the 100 to 150, 175 range, the likelihood is every other house in that neighborhood either had or still has popcorn ceilings in it. And I may not go ahead and take that additional expense to remove those and redo the ceilings because of that expense, because it's what is in that neighborhood. And we'll hit this again, I'm sure, but driveways. So in Texas, driveways crack like crazy because we have foundation problems like crazy. So a driveway is certainly no different. And again, based on the price range of the property, if we're just talking about cracks, likelihood is I'm not going to go in and repair that. But if I'm selling a $500,000 house, and again, pricing is different all over the country. If I'm selling a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house, there's a comparison you can make pretty well nationwide. If I'm selling a big house, nice house like that, the likelihood is, yeah, I am going in and repairing it, because the people that are buying that size and price range are expecting that to be repaired or replaced. Now, a lot of times, again, depending on the price range, a lot of people aren't expecting that to be done. And all the other houses for sale are not going to have that. So I'm not necessarily going to go in and do it at that time. Keep in mind the price range that you are retailing at.
Right. And remember too, apples to apples, like what Bill's talking about, okay? Because anybody that's looking in your neighborhood, they're probably looking for that era of a home. Okay. Now there may be some spread either way, but apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Your house is comparatively priced. That's what a comp is, to other properties in the same neighborhood, the same area. So you're comparing apples to apples as far as, what's going on with each of us. That reminds us to not also put more into a property than the value is going to bring about. So if we're looking in an area that typically they don't have granite countertops, and typically they don't have this, that, or the other upgraded appliances, you're wasting your money putting that into it, because you're not going to get it back out, because it doesn't compare apples to apples. You're kumquats to apples. The other thing to remember is we talk about curb appeal in real estate, and it goes beyond the curb. It goes when you walk in the front door. Okay. Focus on what is going to make this property look good. And you'd be surprised, the things that you can do to make a property look good don't have to be expensive. It can be bright paint. It can be great lighting. It can be some features in the bathrooms, in the kitchens,
brown molding,
and in just little things to make it more appealing. That is why I don't like popcorn ceilings. I'll take them down. It's not that expensive to me. It makes it look better. Make it look as good. I tell my realtors to put flowers by the front door. Yellow flowers make people smile. So you put yellow flowers by the front door, big pot of yellow flowers. People walk in smiling and nobody knows why. But they're doing an open house and people are walking into the house smiling and other people are seeing it. It makes a little bit of a difference in what's it cost to get a pot of yellow flowers from Home Depot or Lowe's.
Let's do we want to address front yard at all right now? Or do we want to?
Let's take a quick break, because we warned everybody we're going to go long. So let's take a quick break and we'll add one more segment to this, and we'll talk about the front yard. But there's some other things we need to inspect in the house as well. Yeah. So let's talk about that too. But we're coming.
There's going to be another show out of this topic.
I think we're going to do one more show, and then I want to focus on the ones we mentioned at the beginning of this show. So let's go ahead and wrap up this segment, and I'll be back in 1 minute.
All right.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
And we're back. This is going to be our final section on the show. I promise. This is one of the longer shows. This is actually our fourth section. I don't know if you realize that. It's segment 4.
No,
we're going into. So we wanted to talk about the front yard real quick, but we have some other things we want to talk about as far as inspection that we need to do in the property. Now, one thing before we get to front yards that I check, and it's because Bill is sitting right there in front of his fireplace. I check the fireplace. A lot of people in the past thought that it was energy efficient to somehow block their chimney, you know, and there is actually a flue in most fireplaces that will close that will do the same thing. But I want to make sure that I have a fireplace that is working, or I want to know if it's not working, and I want to know why. So I will actually do a quick inspection of the chimney. I'll see if somebody's burnt the fire in there recently, because if they did, I know it works. You can light a match, literally light a match and light just a grocery bag and put it in the fireplace. Open the flue. If the smoke is going up, you know it works. If it's starting
open the flue first.
Open the flue first. If it's starting to collect in the fireplace and come out of the fireplace, then blow that bag out. Make sure that the flue works. Okay, because a lot of times the handle will move, but the actual shutter won't. And if not, that means that your chimney has been blocked. That means that you're going to have a lot more expense either jackhammering that concrete out somewhere in the chimney, wherever it happens to be, or just getting rid of the fireplace altogether because it doesn't work. So I check fireplaces if the property has a fireplace, and you standing in front of the fireplace made me think of that. Some of the other things that you can think of before we get to the front yard.
Oh,
plumbing.
Like five more shows worth of stuff so on the fireplace, the flue's a big deal. I'm spending about $140 to $150 per property that have a fireplace, having the chimney sweep come out. You don't have to do that. It's just smart to do it. And one of the things they're going to do, they're going to check the cap. You know, they're typically, your fireplace, your chimney is going to have a cap on it to keep birds out. It'll have a wire piece and a concrete piece on top of that. And so it keeps rodents out and it keeps birds out of your fireplace. So I'm looking for a chimney sweep company to come out and get the fireplace in good health, working order, nice and clean, because smoke through the years will build up, literally creosote, if you are familiar with that term. That's the way we pronounce it down south. So it'll build up on the inside, and it actually becomes a fire hazard over time. So what we'll look at is, just getting a chimney sweep company out. And it's one of those little bitty things that I can put into a one sheet on the property when I'm selling that lets the buyer know I have been thinking about them when I redid this house, and I did everything I could possibly think of to do so that everything was in proper working order and safe. And so that's one of the things I do on the fireplace.
I make a quick check for termites, especially in California and other places where termites are just going crazy. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they don't have them. I will not buy a property unless we've done a termite inspection on it. I will do a quick look. Termite inspections in most places are actually free. They'll come out and they'll look because they want to find something. It's something that you've got a bargaining chip for if you happen to find it, because a lot of times your lender will not give you a loan without a termite inspection. And a lot of times they will require a remediation even written into your contract before you'll be able to buy the home, or the previous owner has to do the remediation. So I look for termites because I want to know what to expect, if that's something that's going to be coming up or not. And it's not just the termites, getting the termites out. A lot of times you have to replace the wood, or else the guarantee doesn't set in. If you don't replace the wood and get those old dead termites out, because there could be eggs or anything else in there, again, this is more time. This is more work. These are things I want to know when I'm purchasing a property. You wanted to say something, Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you are selling a property, that buyer is going to need, unless they're paying all cash, they're going to need a WDI, a wood destroying insect report. That's the termite deal, and carpenter ants and anything else. But the bulk of it is focused on termites. So they're going to need that. When we're buying, if we're buying a foreclosure, we're not going to get that, because the foreclosing entity, whether it be government, bank, mortgage company, has not lived in the property, and that gives them an exclusion for not having to complete a seller's disclosure form. Now, an individual has to fill out a seller's disclosure form. When you and I buy that property, and when we turn around and sell it, we actually have that same exclusion from a standpoint of we've never lived in the house, and that exempts us from the seller's disclosure form. Now, you want to have the form with that stated on it, so that you're not, doesn't look like you're just trying to not do what you're supposed to do. But if I've never lived in it, there may be some things that have slipped by me. But you always want to make sure you understand the termite issue. And with everything, every repair you can possibly think of, it's just a line item on your budget. So
Exactly.
if you know what the repair cost is and you know what the hassle is going to be there, then you look at it and say, okay, at this price, I can do all that and all these repairs, and there's no issues at all. We get into yard. I'm dealing on a property I'm bidding on right now that we'll tell you about. So,
you want to do the yard in another episode? Because we're running up on almost 7 minutes.
We did.
So in closing, I want to point something out. Just following up on Bill's last point. Also remember time, okay? Especially if you are borrowing money to do this. And even if you aren't borrowing money, this is your money that could be working someplace else if it's taking longer. So don't just factor the cost of something, because something may not cost that much, but it may take a longer period of time to do. Replacing the fascia that's eaten by termites, it's not super expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not super expensive. But it is time consuming. Having the chimney cleaned up, $150, and they'll do it in an hour or less. Okay, so factor in all of those things and consider what it's going to take. A lot of times you're not going to be able to replace the wood fascia or anything until you're ready to work on the exterior of the property, doing whatever you're going to do, windows or paint or roofing or whatever else. All of that gets done at the same time. But that is going to extend that time period that much more. And it may only be an extra week or two, but if you're tacking on an extra week or two for this, an extra week or two for that, an extra week or two for that, before you know it, you're 2 months, 3 months, 4 months longer. And that is breaking into your cost of holding is what it's called. And that's the money cost that you have. You're paying interest on that money one way or the other, whether you paid cash for it out of your own pocket or whether you have somebody else that lent you the money. You're paying on that money to hold it until you get profit from that. So that cuts into your profit. So keep those things in mind. Bill, like I said, we got lots and lots to talk about. I think we should just turn the camera on sometimes when we're having our conversations. We probably get a show right out of that. As always, it was my extreme pleasure to chat with you again today. I'm glad we got our technical issues worked out. Have a great day, great week, and congratulations on 53 episodes. And congratulations to all of you guys for sitting through and watching us for 53 episodes. We've enjoyed having you here, and we're not done. We got a lot more to go. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Investor Guys podcast. Take care, Bill.
If you're new for us, jump over to investorguyspodcast.com, hit the archive, catch up on the back episodes.
And I'm actually going to be, and that's another show idea, actually, since we're running long anyway. We can go revisit our old shows, and if there's any updates, update, and we can just run them live and just do like what is that, Mystery Theater 2000? We should say you're in the theater here.
Mystery Science Theater,
and we'll just make comments on our shows. I think that could be a whole season.
Oh, very good.
Ideas. All right, happy investing, everybody. We'll see you later.
Everybody.